Hey, what's up YouTube? Spawny here. So, I'm sorry I've been gone for like almost a month, pretty much like 3 weeks now. I just had a lot of stuff happen in my personal life that I'm not going to get into, but it just basically took my focus away from Yu-Gi-Oh for a little bit. But I'm back now. So but so I'm really late to this party. Like 9 days late. But yeah. So essentially, I'm going to go over the new summoning mechanic and just how it works, the changes to the game, and my brief thoughts on it. And I'll do more videos on it probably in a little bit. But so basically, we have Link summoning now, which is Konami's new summoning mechanic that they have introduced to the game. So Link monsters are the new monsters. They're blue, and they have these little markers here, which I'll get to in a minute. And this is just kind of layout of them. They have attack points. They have no defense points, and they do go in your extra deck. And they have like a link number here, which the number is like the number of monsters you need to send to the graveyard to summon them. So you have to send to the graveyard materials equal to the link number, and then you can link summon something from your extra deck by sending the same number of monsters that meet the material requirements written in the card's effect box, whose total number is equal to the link number from the field to the graveyard. Or you can decrease the number of materials you need by using a link monster to link summon another monster. So, for example, if you have a link 2, if you're trying to summon a link 3 and you have a link 2 out and one other monster, you can send the link 2 and the other monster to the graveyard to just directly summon the link 3. So that is one way, as they say here in the case of Decode Talker, which is this guy right here. So yeah. And then the markers are relevant because of the other changes to the game, which I'll go to this picture to explain. So essentially now the beloved extra deck over here, you can now only special summon. There's these two monster zones here now, which are new. So now you can only summon extra deck monsters, so Fusion, Exceed, Synchro, and Pendulum, to this monster zone unless you have a linked monster zone. So as you see, the pointers here on Decode Talker are linking to these two zones right here. So these two zones are essentially opened up to have extra deck monsters summoned to them. Normally, without a link monster in the field now, you can only summon extra deck monsters to these zones here, and you can only occupy one of them. They are owned by neither player, and each player can only occupy one of them. So, now, in order for you to be able to go crazy with the extra deck summons, you have to establish a link summon first to bring out more than one extra deck monster at a time. Originally, the pendulum mechanic was thought to be unchecked by this, other than the fact that on the game mat, which is a minor change really, that the pendulum zones have now just been put down here versus over on the sides where they were. So you can only control 5 spells and traps, including your pendulum, and your pendulum scales are included in that. These are also just normal spell and trap zones. They don't have to be used for pendulum scales. You can also just activate MST in this zone as well. That's not affected by this anyway. So, but the main thing that's changed is the new summoning mechanic. The pendulum mechanic was very minor and the way it's set up. So the game board changed, minor. Okay, moving on. Back to link summons. So the pendulum mechanic was originally thought to be unchecked by this because the original thing that was put out left out the mention of pendulum monsters, but they came out a few days ago and they said that the pendulum summons from the extra deck, not from the hand, from the extra deck, must go into the extra monster zone or a linked zone. So you cannot just go scale, metal foe, pop, pendulum summon 4 monsters. No, you can't do that. You have to pendulum summon your monsters from the extra deck into a linked zone. So the pendulum mechanic has been severely weakened by this. Something that I think made a lot of players very happy is a lot of players didn't like the pendulum mechanic to begin with. It had a lot of backlash from it. Lots of players were very unhappy with the mechanic, and the mechanic has caused a lot of problems, starting with Cleafords, evolving throughout the years, all the way up into the madness that was Performages and Pals, Pepe, if you will. And I think Konami's just finally decided to address the mechanic that a lot of people have been displeased with. But the other thing they're trying to do with this mechanic, I believe, is slow down the game. Their player base has... this game has gotten very fast, to the point where it's, I win the die roll, I win the match kind of mindset. I win the die roll, I choose to go first, I make a field, okay, break my field, okay, I broke your field, now break my field. Or just, oh, you can't break my field, I won. So essentially it's like, I win the die roll, I go first, I win the match. I win game 1, I lose game 2, I win game 3. Essentially, that's just what the game has turned into. Not all the time, but in many cases that has held true. And I think this is an attempt to stop that, seeing as now you can't just go crazy turn 1 with extra deck monsters. You have to invest resources into a link summon first, then invest more resources into your extra deck summons. So it makes it allows you to be able to draw on more resources in order to make your essential combos. Also, I think one thing that I'll probably make a video on, like, best decks under link summons. Low battery, so, but I'm about done anyway. But I think decks like, per se, Infernoid will be very, very good under this summoning mechanic. Seeing as these link monsters have no levels. That's another notable thing about them. So Infernoids basically can just link summon a monster, put their Infernoids back in the graveyard, and then summon them back out, and they get another beater for free. This essentially allows Infernoids to just become the best deck. And I definitely think that Infernoids are going to get checked on the list. We'll probably see Lawn Mowing go to 1. Or something along those lines, because that deck will be the best deck, without a doubt in my mind. I think that deck will become the best deck under link summons, because they send their monsters to the graveyard and lose 0 resources out of it, and get a free beat stick. Infernoids have never really cared about their extra deck to an extent anyway. They make a Vanilla Synchros, they make Tiara, and they make Omega. That's about the only cards they consistently summon from their extra deck. So yeah, but that's essentially my initial thoughts on the new mechanic. That's basically a very basic explanation of it. I'll make a video in the next couple days, probably talking about, like, how I think this mechanic will affect the game in the first few months, and then later on. And then I'll also probably make a video about the top decks that I think will become the strongest decks under link summons. But, yep, again, guys, I do apologize for being gone for so long, but I am back now. So look forward to more videos soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I will see you all later. Spawny.